the relentless architecture of greatness. There is a silent war taking place inside you, one that no one else can see, no audience applauds, no critic reviews, yet it determines everything. It is the war between the version of you that seeks comfort and the version of you that demands expansion. One whispers, "Stay where it's safe, stay where it's known." The other roars, "You were not built for repetition, you were built for creation." Most people never realize this war is happening. They drift through routines, numbing their instincts, mistaking familiarity for fulfillment. They accept the weight of ordinary living not because they chose it consciously, but because they never stopped to question it. And so they wake up one day, years later, not broken, not defeated, but unfulfilled in a way that cannot be explained, only felt. Because deep within every human being, there is an understanding, a quiet knowing that they are capable of more. Not a vague, abstract more, but a specific, undeniable expansion of who they are meant to become. A life not measured in comfort, but in creation. Not defined by ease, but by evolution. And yet, to step into that life requires something rare. Something most people avoid not out of weakness, but out of conditioning. It requires responsibility. Not responsibility for circumstances, but responsibility for interpretation, for meaning, for action. You see, the world does not shape you nearly as much as your perception of it does. Two people can face the same hardship. One emerges strengthened, the other defeated. Not because the event was different, but because their internal framework was. And that framework is built by thought. Thoughts repeated become beliefs. Beliefs reinforced become identity. And identity expressed consistently becomes destiny. So if you want to change your life, you must begin where all transformation begins, at the level of thought. But this is not as simple as replacing negative thinking with positive thinking. That is surface level. That is temporary. True transformation requires depth. It requires you to examine the unconscious scripts you have been running for years, perhaps decades, without question. Who told you what you are capable of? Who decided what is realistic for your life? Who defined the boundaries of your ambition? And more importantly, why did you accept it? The moment you begin asking these questions, something shifts. You step out of passive existence and into conscious creation. You stop living by default and start living by design. And design requires clarity. Not the kind of clarity that comes from waiting for the perfect plan, but the kind that emerges from decision. The kind that says, this is what I am moving toward, regardless of how long it takes, regardless of how uncertain the path may be. Clarity is not found. It is forged. It is forged in moments. And once that decision is made, something irreversible begins to unfold within you. It is subtle at first. A shift in posture, a quiet tightening of focus, a refusal to entertain thoughts that once held power over you. The same circumstances exist, the same environment surrounds you, yet your relationship to it changes completely. What once felt like an obstacle now feels like material. What once discouraged you now trains you. What once delayed you now refines you. You begin to understand a truth that most never fully grasp. Nothing in your life is happening randomly. Everything is either a tool or a test. And when you adopt that perspective, you stop resisting reality and start using it. This is where resilience is born. Not from avoiding difficulty, but from reinterpreting it. From seeing challenge not as something that threatens your path, but as something that strengthens it. Because every moment that demands more from you is an invitation to expand beyond who you have been. Consider the lives of those who reshaped industries, altered history, and built legacies that outlived them. They were not protected from adversity. They were defined by how they met it. A man who lost repeatedly before redefining leadership did not rise because life was easy. He rose because he refused to let defeat become identity. Another who built an empire from steel did not wait for perfect conditions. He created conditions through relentless vision and execution. A creator who was told his ideas lacked value did not retreat into silence. He amplified his voice until the world had no choice but to listen. They were not exempt from doubt. They were not immune to fear. They simply refused to let those forces dictate their decisions. And that is the distinction, because fear will always exist. Doubt will always attempt to enter. The question is not whether you experience them, but whether you obey them. Most people do. They negotiate with their potential, compromising their vision to fit within the boundaries of what feels safe. They wait for confidence before taking action, not realizing that confidence is the result of action, not the prerequisite. But those who transform their lives understand something different. They act in spite of uncertainty. They move before they feel ready. They take steps that feel uncomfortable, unfamiliar, even unnatural, because they are no longer guided by what feels easy, but by what aligns with who they are becoming. And with each step, something powerful happens. Your identity begins to shift. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to succeed. You begin to see yourself as someone who executes, who adapts, who persists. The gap between who you are and who you are becoming starts to close, not through hope, but through evidence. Because every action you take is proof. Proof that you are capable. Proof that you are committed. Proof that you are no longer bound by the limitations you once accepted. And as that proof accumulates, belief strengthens. Not as blind faith, but as earned certainty. You start to trust yourself, not in theory, but in practice. You trust that you will show up, that you will continue, that you will find a way forward regardless of the obstacles in your path. And that trust is one of the most valuable assets you can possess. Because when you trust yourself, hesitation disappears. You no longer waste energy questioning your direction. You move with purpose, with clarity, with intention. Decisions that once felt overwhelming become obvious. Distractions lose their appeal. The noise fades. You become focused. And focus is a force multiplier. It takes your effort and amplifies it. It takes your time and sharpens it. It allows you to channel your energy into what truly matters, eliminating everything that does not contribute to your vision. But focus requires discipline. Not just in what you do, but in what you ignore. Because every moment you spend on something that does not align with your purpose is a moment taken away from something that does. And time is the one resource that cannot be replenished, so you become intentional. You begin to guard your attention, your energy, your environment. You surround yourself with influences that elevate you, information that sharpens you, people who challenge you to grow. Because you understand that your environment does not just support your growth. It shapes it, and as you evolve, something else begins to emerge. Gratitude, not as a reaction to success, but as a foundation for it. You begin to appreciate the process itself, the early mornings, the late nights, the moments of doubt that forced you to grow stronger, the setbacks that revealed weaknesses you needed to address, the challenges that pushed you beyond your limits. Because you see them differently now, not as burdens, but as blessings. Not as interruptions, but as essential components of your journey. And this perspective changes everything. It removes desperation from your ambition. It replaces anxiety with presence. It allows you to pursue greatness without losing yourself in the process. Because you are no longer chasing success to fill a void. You are creating success as an expression of who you are. And that distinction is powerful. Because when you operate from that place, you are not dependent on outcomes to feel fulfilled. You are fulfilled by the act of becoming. And ironically, that is what accelerates your results. Because you are no longer attached to immediate validation. You are committed to long-term growth. You are willing to invest time, effort, and energy without needing instant reward, and that willingness separates you. It places you in a category of individuals who are not controlled by convenience, who are not limited by short-term thinking, who are not distracted by temporary discomfort. You become consistent, and consistency is where transformation becomes undeniable. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is relentless. Day after day, decision after decision, action after action. Until one day, without a single defining moment, everything is different. You think differently, you act differently, you respond differently. And your life reflects it, not because of luck, not because of chance, but because you built it, piece by piece, thought by thought, action by action. And as you stand in that reality, one that once felt distant, uncertain, even impossible, you realize something profound. There was never anything extraordinary about the path. There was only something uncommon about your commitment to it. Because while others waited, you moved. While others doubted, you decided. While others hesitated, you executed. And in doing so, you became someone who does not settle. Someone who does not shrink. Someone who does not stop. And that is the architecture of greatness. Not a single breakthrough, not a moment of luck, but a relentless, unwavering commitment to becoming more than you were yesterday, again and again and again, until there is no version of your life left unexplored, no potential left unrealized, no dream left unclaimed. Only the undeniable reality of what happens when a human being decides and never looks back.